Hello and welcome to my garden and welcome to Say Yes to Life. I'm Delisa Renideo and I'd like to share a little story with you. A little girl was walking down the street and came to three men laying bricks. She approached the first one and said, "Hey mister, what you doing?" And he replied wearily, "I'm just laying one damn brick on top of another one." So she walked up to the second man. "Hey mister, what you doing?" He replied, "I'm building a wall." Then she came to the third man. "Hey mister, what you doing?" He stood up proudly and said, "I'm building the cornerstone of the greatest cathedral in all of Europe." All three were doing the same exact physical task, but the meaning they gave to their work was completely different. And that meaning shaped how they experienced their lives. So now let's take a little closer look at this. So imagine being the man who spends a day after day after day thinking, "I'm just laying one damn brick on top of another over and over again." How would that feel? Then imagine being the one who says, "I'm building a wall." Well, that's at least a bigger picture, a sense of contributing to something meaningful. His day might feel more purposeful. But think of the man who says, "I'm building the cornerstone of the greatest cathedral in all of Europe." His work has true meaning. It has grandeur. Every stone he sets carries a sense of vision and even legacy. Now, most of us spend a large part of our lives working for a living, and the question is, what meaning do we give to that work? If you're answering phones and filing papers all day, do you tell yourself, "I'm just pushing paper around"? Or could you see yourself as maybe helping people navigate a confusing insurance system, or at least keeping things running so others can do their jobs well? If your belief is that work is all drudgery, it's just the nature of it, that belief will shape how your work feels to you. But then maybe you notice that there are people who seem to genuinely enjoy their work. Could you open to the possibility that that could be true for you too? Now, if you can't find a way to see your current work as meaningful, maybe that's life nudging you to explore other ways to support yourself, ones that do feel meaningful. In my last episode, I shared how our attention shapes our lives. Where we place our attention, we place our energy, and even our sense of aliveness. But attention is only part of the story, because whatever we notice, we also interpret. We give it meaning, and that meaning comes from our beliefs. As human beings, we can't live without meaning. It's like oxygen for the soul, and without it we feel empty and depressed and maybe just lost. But with meaning, we feel purpose and joy and resilience, even in hard times. You may have heard of Viktor Frankl, who survived the concentration camps, the Nazi concentration camps. And he wrote a very powerful book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he said, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." Now, where do our beliefs come from? The truth is, most of our meanings are shaped by beliefs that we did not consciously choose. So a lot of our beliefs come from our family. The family that you grew up in, and of course, the family that your parents grew up in, and it gets passed down. And you may have come to believe something like, when you're good, you deserve a treat. We also get a lot of our beliefs from culture, our specific culture. And of course it varies from one part of the world and one time to another. But in the Western world, you may have developed a belief that success means wealth and status. We also get beliefs from our own past painful experiences. Like, for instance, we may decide people can't be trusted, and we carry that as a belief. But we also get a lot of beliefs from advertising, marketing. For instance, if it says natural or organic, it must be healthy. These beliefs become the lens that we're looking through, often without even realizing it. So now let's talk about the circular dance of beliefs and attention. And here's where it gets really interesting. Beliefs don't just shape meaning, they also shape attention. So if I believe that people are dangerous, then I notice every suspicious glance, every bit of bad news. And that selective attention reinforces the belief, making it feel even more true that people are dangerous and they can't be trusted. But it works in reverse too. What we consistently notice becomes the evidence that builds a belief. So if I'm really paying attention and only notice the setbacks, I might just begin to believe I'm unlucky. If I notice small kindnesses and pay attention to these small kindnesses, I may come to believe that the world is good. So our beliefs shape our attention, and our attention reinforces belief. And together, they create the world that we are living inside. They create the meaning that we live with. I saw this so clearly during the 20 years that I taught vegan nutrition and cooking classes. It was great fun. I loved doing it, and most of the people really enjoyed it and enjoyed the food and found themselves getting healthier, which was great. But the biggest challenge for people wasn't learning how to make healthy food. It was the beliefs that they already carried about food. For instance, the belief about reward. Almost everyone had been taught from childhood, if you're good, you deserve a treat. But what does that mean, a treat? A treat almost always means something unhealthy. Sweets, fried food, if you're a little older maybe, alcohol. So even people who wanted to eat better would reach Friday night exhausted and think, I deserve a treat. But that treat was often food and drink that worked against what they really wanted, against their health. And they also have beliefs about taste. Many people just believe that healthy food can't be enjoyable. I actually heard people say, you hear that vegans live longer? Well, they don't really live longer. It just feels longer because they don't get the joy of eating. Well, I have to say that isn't true, but that's certainly one of the things that people can believe. And so if you have that belief, they might look at a plate of colorful whole grains and vegetables and wrinkle their nose and say, I'll bet that's healthy, as if health and pleasure couldn't go together. But there's another belief that was very common that bothered me more than the others, and that was when people would ask me, parents would sometimes ask me if I had any kid-friendly recipes, assuming that their children couldn't enjoy the same delicious, wholesome foods that they themselves actually liked, that they needed to give their kids things like boxed mac and cheese or hot dogs. I would ask them, what's friendly about teaching your children to eat foods that would lead to obesity and chronic disease? Because that's exactly what happens. So in addition to those beliefs, there were newer beliefs that people had from advertising, and this was really common. There was lots of products that were marketed with labels like natural or organic, but when you look closer, they were still junk food. They could be cookies and candy and crackers and made with organic junk food. So these words created the illusion of health, and people thought if it says natural, it must be good for me, and it gave the food a meaning it didn't deserve, and it worked against the true desires of the people who were choosing these foods. So these are all powerful examples of how beliefs from our families, our culture, and marketing can shape the meaning that we attach to food and influence our choices. And of course, this is not only about food, this is about all of our beliefs. But there's some really good news, and that is that once we recognize that a belief is working against us, we can actually choose new ones that serve life and love. So for instance, instead of believing that in order to have a treat that we really enjoy, it has to be something unhealthy, we could create a new belief. We could say, it's an act of love to feed myself healthy food. We could also say, instead of my kids won't like healthy food, we could say, my kids can enjoy the same healthy food that I enjoy, and it's an act of love to feed my children food that helps them to be healthy and thrive. Instead of healthy food means sacrificing my enjoyment, we could say, I can choose treats that are both delicious and nourishing, like a basket of fresh berries or maybe an expensive fruit that I don't usually buy to celebrate a special occasion. These new beliefs bring new meaning. They bring new life-supporting meaning. They turn food from a battleground into an expression of love for ourselves and for those that we care for. So this week I invite you to really pay attention to your thoughts and notice, maybe just pick one stressful belief this week that comes up in your mind. Maybe it's something like, I don't have enough time. That's one I still work with. Or, I'll never get this right. So I'd like to ask you, pause and ask yourself, what else might be true in this situation? Just noticing and asking these questions opens new possibilities for us. And every time we do this, we reclaim a little more authority over our lives. Choosing our attention chooses what we see. And then beliefs give meaning to what we see. And together, they shape the world that we are personally living in. And when we bring awareness to both attention and the meaning, we discover that we're not prisoners of old stories. We can choose meanings that free us, meanings that connect us to love and gratitude and joy. And that's another way of saying yes to life. Now, if you'd like some help with this process, I recommend 2 books in particular that are really helpful. One is called Loving What Is by Byron, which teaches a method called the work for questioning these stressful beliefs. And then there's the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz, which offers us some simple, powerful new agreements we can make with ourselves to live with more freedom and love. So now, just thank you for joining me today. And if you know someone who might benefit from this message, please share it with them. Together, we're helping more people say yes to life.